Thanks, Isaac. It's not going to do all of those things in 20 minutes. You'll be glad to know. But we're going to take a stab about the core aspects of being male and female and what that means for meaning. What does it mean? The title of the talk refers to the meaning of being male and female. And in a nutshell, how do we find meaning in general? I think it's a really interesting question to ask. People give really varied answers to that and struggle a little bit. But I think if we have to give one simple answer, meaning is found through purpose. That happy exaltation when we're doing something that fulfills us and that uses our gifts, that phrase, I was made for this, right? I think we've all used it in some shape or form, I hope, in our lives. Sums up well the headline of this talk. That our sexuality is both a gift and a task. Not a task in the sense of a burden, like a grinding job, but more of a fulfillment of aspects of ourselves, right? A kind of, I was made for this task that we're engaged in. Meaning is found in purpose, and that's true of our sexuality as much as it is about anything else. So we're going to look at both aspects with regard to sexuality, the gift and the task. Our sexuality is a gift. It isn't something we create for ourselves. That's part one. And part two is going to be our sexuality is a task. It's for others and it's in service of a higher purpose than itself. So they're the two key parts to this talk. If I have time at the end, or 20 minutes or so, I'll say a few words about why I think in our contemporary culture, sexuality and sexual identity is both too significant and not significant enough. But that's if we have time. We can maybe discuss that in the Q&A. All right, part one. Our sex, our being male or female, is a gift. Our sexuality is not self-created. To understand the Catholic vision for how we flourish as humans, we have to begin with the truth that we don't self-create our humanity. Just as we don't self-create the world around us that we inhabit, we don't self-create the universe. As a creature, not the creator, I have to have the humility to recognize that my human nature, with all of its potential, is not something that I construct for myself, but is something that's gifted to me. It's something that I wasn't capable of creating. It's a gift from a higher person than myself. And I have to recognize this as a scientific and material reality. And it also needs to inform my disposition, my spiritual and my psychological approach to life in general and towards God, my creator. This is really central. It's really simple, but it's really central because the rejection of God and the rejection of our created reality is why ultimately we're living in a culture that tells us the gift of our humanity, our being made male or female, isn't good enough or is something to be dismissed or altered or even destroyed. But before we focus on the gift of being created, male or female, we need to recognize something that everybody shares, regardless of their sex, and that is being made as a human person at all. The beauty and the depth of the Catholic vision of our human nature relies on seeing that nature as a gift. It's a gift because that shared human nature is something in which everybody participates, and it's what both gives a value and meaning to every single person, regardless of their sex. And it's also what ensures a radical equality of the sexes. Again, because that universal human nature is shared by every single person. Everybody then is a recipient of the gift that is their human nature. And this nature, just like the fact that we're made male or female, is understood in the Catholic vision through two sources. Scientific inquiry, and I mean that in the broadest sense of the term, which includes philosophy, and direct revelation from the Creator. So we've only got 20 minutes for all of this evening. I won't illustrate all my points by going through that methodology. I'd love to. But the Catholic understanding takes both natural science, philosophy, and combines it with scripture and tradition as given directly by God in order to understand ourselves. So, for example, before the time of Christ, by using scientific philosophical inquiry into the nature of things, the ancient Greeks could say things about mankind, like, we are distinct from the rest of creation, and this is a result of our spiritual capacities. They could say that we are made male or female, and they could say from that comes children and marriage as a natural institution. These are things that just through inquiry into the way of things, the Greeks concluded. And we then see this understanding, this limited understanding, clarified and deepened through revelation in scripture and in tradition. And we famously see that in the book of Genesis, right? Everyone's heard of those passages. And it's worth, I think, noting a few aspects of our humanity in order to summarize what the Catholic understanding of the human person is before we go into male and female. That tradition says that we are made body and soul. I'm neither just a meat machine, some kind of meat robot, determined to be the way I am, nor am I a purely spiritual thing. My body really is a part of who I am. We're made rational and we're made free because of that. That I have the capacity to know good and evil and to choose it. And that includes how I use my sexuality. And that we enjoy those capacities as human persons, either as male or as female. There is no other way for me to experience being a human than either as a man or as a woman. I mean that objectively rather than an existential feeling. And while we all share a human nature in common, I either do so as a female human or a male human. And this gift is something good that we can enjoy and relish in. Though, of course, we often mess that up through sin, both individually and socially. So, there are two aspects that I would like to reflect on now of the giftedness of our humanity, of being made male and female, that we'll pick up when we later discuss the task that is attached to it and the purpose of our sexuality. Firstly, we're made to be relational. We are made to be relational and to enjoy the love of others in a particular way. There's a design for how we do it. Secondly, we're made for the kind of love that we see in the example of Jesus and in the church when she's doing things as she should. We are gifted a human nature as male or female that is fulfilled when it is loved unconditionally by mother and father and is loved through true friendship. We're made to receive and give a kind of love that is self-sacrificial and totally aimed at the good of the other person. We'll come back to this, but we can broadly call it a mothering and a fathering kind of love that we're made for. And the complementary differences in being made male and female are both a primary means by which that love can happen in society, and also both a means and a sign that we're made for another who is God. That's a really dense sentence, so let's unpack that. Firstly, we recognize that there are general differences between being made male or female. Whole books have been dedicated to those differences that we can recognize. The Catholic vision sees this difference as something that in God's plan draws us towards another person of the other sex, in large part because of that sexual difference. So our sexed reality as made male or female, our biological and psychological differences, there are lots of other differences, including our erotic capacity, is a gift that tells us something about what we're made for. That desire to know and to love and enjoy our sexual capacity with another is in and of itself a good desire. It's a real gift that is pulling us towards the very purpose of why we are made with complementary differences at all, which is to unite with another and be generative with them through a loving relationship that we call marriage. But it's also a gift that powers and encourages modes of relationship that are not about having sex with another person. It also powers, this difference also powers and enables relationships more broadly. It's an essential part of our more general collaborations and social activities that we enjoy. For example, as an adult man, there is a non-erotic engaging of my sexuality in a simple activity like arranging a camping trip for my children and their friends. My adult male nature, expressed as fatherly care and protection, has a core part in pushing me, in enabling me to arrange that activity, of wanting, of desiring to do that for others, for the sake of looking after those children, of forming them, and also of my desire and wanting to protect them during that activity. Likewise, for a celibate priest or religious, their sexuality, in the broadest sense, isn't diluted or removed because they are not having sex. It's alive in them, in their activity, in their life, in the way that they, as adult males or females, use the gifts that they have as that particular sex, expressed by them as an individual, to care for, to encourage, to love and to enable others to flourish. And of course, the complementary differences in being made male and female allow for better collaboration in society in general, right? We talk about this all the time. This collaboration that's mutually enriching with the gifts of being a man or a woman, whether that be in society that is a family, or whether it be in the village, or whether it be in the church, or even in a business. So, to finish part one, there is a gift in being oriented to the difference of the other who is like me, but is not the same as me. For example, Kerri, my wife, is like me in many aspects, but she's also different in her female aspect. And this pull to the other, that who is not like me, the gift of that is ultimately designed to draw me and to draw all of us towards not just people or Kerri, but ultimately to God. Sounds really weird if you've heard that for the first time. I get it. The pull of the other, who is also our home and our destiny, is best described, I think, in St. Augustine's famous expression. So I'll quote him. "Late have I loved you, beauty so old and so new. Late have I loved you, and see, you were within, and I was in the external world and sought you there. And in my unlovely state, I plunged into those lovely created things which you made. You were fragrant, and I drew my breath and now pant after you. I tasted you, and I feel but hunger and thirst for you. You touched me, and I'm set on fire to attain the peace which is yours." So God has made us to be in his image and likeness as humans, and he's designed us to find fulfillment in choosing to move towards him. We have that similarity, that imago Dei, that compatibility with him, that we feel at home with him and in him, right? That peace that St. Augustine speaks of. But also, God is very much other, right? We share an image and a likeness, but we are literally not God. He is other, who is not the same as us. And that difference draws us towards him. We have a need to find him and partake of that difference, that goodness, that perfection that we cannot find in and of ourselves. Can't find it in any human relationship. So, our sexuality is a gift that bestows on us dignity, meaning, and worth, and it draws us out of ourselves to be able to love the other, which means both people and God. That's part one. All right, that's gift. Part two, our sexuality is a task. It's for others, not primarily for ourselves, and it serves a higher purpose than itself. All right, our sexual nature is both a gift and a task, two sides of the same coin. One leads to the other. The gift is given for a purpose, a task, and in that purpose, we find the meaning of our sexuality. Before we reflect on the task that the difference between being male and female enables, let's go back to our shared human nature for a moment. The gift that is our human nature, as spiritual and physical, is an enabling gift that allows us to fulfill God's desire for each of us. And that is that we know him, receive his love, and love him back in this life and for eternity. It gives us the ability, that capacity to know the good and to choose it. And it allows us to choose to love others with a self-sacrificial love. This core human vocation is achievable regardless of whether we are made male or female, and regardless of whether we use our sexuality to ever have sex. It's what Catholics call our baptismal vocation, our primary purpose. All of this is to say that it's really important to note that our ability to fulfill this primary human vocation isn't dependent on whether we're made male or female in and of itself. It's not dependent on whether we use our sexuality to ever have sex. A celibate priest is missing nothing of the highest things that his sexuality was created for by living his celibacy. He can enjoy genuine friendship, he can enjoy true love, and he can enjoy intimacy with God. But as we noted, there is no actually being human outside of being male or female. It's not like we can pretend we can live without being sexed. We are. And this inescapable complementary difference points to a particular tasking, a particular purpose for men and women, both as individuals and as part of society. And again, I want to emphasize all of the particular tasks related to being male or female serve that higher purpose of a society of love that enables each other to be intimate with God. Okay, we've already spoken about the gift of complementary difference as male and female, both for individuals and society. The task, the purpose of this gift, serves a natural and a supernatural end. It serves both the creation of new people, their physical and spiritual coming into existence, which is a good in and of itself. Life is good. This natural good, this creation of new persons, represents an end so good, so deep, so beautiful that we call it a mystery. But even so, it isn't a final end in and of itself. Each person is created through the love of a man and a woman, using their sexuality in cooperation with God. Each person created that way is also created for something. That primary calling that we've already spoken about, that baptismal vocation to know God and to love others. And each family unit of man and woman, creating individual new human persons, participates in a natural and supernatural task that falls to parents in a particular way, but that serves the whole of society, namely the building up of the church on earth and ultimately in heaven. It's a natural and a spiritual thing. This particular task of the procreation and raising of children to know God is an extraordinary gift task. It's in and of itself, again, a deep mystery. Think about it. As parents, you are literally growing the body of Christ. That thing that is both flesh and blood, as well as being eternal and spiritual. We're adding new blood brothers and sisters of Christ to society, who are made to be grafted to him through baptism, and later through their intentional participation in that economy of love that is the sacraments of the church. And building the church through which each and every person is offered the sacramental life of God, and through which we all should experience true loving, whether it be in prayer, whether it be in friendship, or through the fathering of a priest or the mothering of a female religious, all of which is an expression, a human participation of God's love for us. So what a mystery that this gift of male and female enables. What a deep, meaningful purpose to the reality of being made male and female. A gift and a task that enables everybody's ability to fulfill their happiness in relationship to God through the society that is the church. Before my final remarks, it's worth saying that what being a mature person will be is inevitably connected to our sex. Again, we can't be a human person outside of being male or female. And so what it is to be a mature person, to be a mature man, is broadly speaking, becoming somebody with the virtues of fatherhood. And to be a mature woman is to become someone with the virtues of motherhood. To do so, regardless of the individual differences that we may have from others, in how we express our masculinity or femininity, to do this regardless of that individual difference, is to become more fully ourselves. It's an identity and it's a task that we grow into, especially if we recognize our sex as a gift we have to cultivate. Again, it's worth emphasizing you don't need to biologically be a father or a mother in order to cultivate the virtues of fatherhood or motherhood that you're made for, right? Everybody is called to this. And I, like many of you in this room, have been spiritually fathered by many different men in my life, all of whom express their mature, fatherly masculinity in an individual way. Likewise, I know many here in this room who have been cared for by women of maternal virtue in many different contexts, and again, who express their femininity in very individual ways. True masculinity is a fatherly man, and true femininity is a maternal woman in that broader sense. It's less of a mathematical formula and more of something that you know it when you see it, and both of which are connected to aspects of Christ and his church in particular ways. All right, that's time. I'm going to leave it there for this evening and open this up for some question and discussion.